One of the reasons I'm still dressed like this, other than the fact that it's fun and funny, is that I am buried in snow. And it's 30 degrees outside on March 24th, 2003. 13. That's crazy. I've never seen that ever. I am 42 years old. I've seen a lot of winters. Never seen this kind of snowstorm this late, this far past the spring equinox. I don't usually want to do something about global warming or climate change or anything like that, because I don't know. The Earth might have cycles. The Earth is way older than people realize, and climactic, experience has only been jotted down with detail for 200 or 300 years. So that normal that we all thought was going to school as kids, that just might have been a phase. But it's safe to say, based on how the plants act and the cycles of the seasons, that this is extremely rare. And I really hope it doesn't affect plants. I hope plants weren't budding a couple of days ago on the equinox, and a snow like this will just damage buds, and who knows what it'll do to the plant. 2 years ago I was in Tucson, Arizona, just after I saw the Giffords shooting, and they had a frost there in the desert that killed a lemon tree in my mom's yard. And it was a weather thing that was just so rare for there. And this is just... I was going to do a video on another one about, geez, this kind of talk with climate change, all it did was turn into a debate about throwing another tax on the public, the carbon tax. People got to do something about these people. Being snowed in like this is a good metaphor for how we live as citizens in America. We are basically snowed in to our lives as citizens, as it is dictated to us by the powers that be, by the cold-hearted snowing is powers that be. And they just storm whenever they want out of season now. Pretty good comparison, I think. The wild weather, the crazy gigantic disasters. They're talking about how they manipulate with HAARP, and I don't get into that kind of thing, but wow, there was a hurricane heading for New York on 9/11, and it wasn't reported on the news. And it was 1 mile out. It wasn't on the morning news. There was no evacuation. And the people that really go to an extreme, they say that the technology that was used to dustify the towers was plugged into the power of that hurricane. And the sheer strength of the hurricane's force was transmitted into the device that was used to do that to the Twin Towers. And that they are able to make a hurricane and put it anywhere. Well, if that's the case, that's even worse than 9/11. That's just... it's worse than buildings coming down, because they can just hit anywhere with a hurricane. And the reason they do something like that is the insurance hikes. And the contractors that get work. And there's just a certain level of the workforce that gets a big, big revenue boost, and a section of the public that gets knocked down almost irreparably. Their lives are ruined. And having ruined lives... people that survive become dependent on the government, because their lives are gone and they can't recover. So that is the appeal to weather manipulation and killing people and depopulating and all that convenient stuff. Like, one of the motivations that they don't talk about with the towers coming down on 9/11 is it was discovered that there was so much asbestos in those buildings that they had to do something about it, or the buildings would be uninhabitable. That's not discussed much even by the hardcore conspiracy people. Silverstein knew that when he bought the building. And I think he was just the owner because he knew that he would get a fat insurance boost when they destroyed the building. And there were two options of destroying the building: taking it down floor by floor, which would take 10 years, or blowing it up, or mix the necessity with the military's need to go to war. You know, people ask themselves, why would they do something that nuts? Well, one of the motivations was destroying the World Trade Center because of the asbestos was already on the docket. You can research that. And they were demanded by the government to do something about it. So basically, they were pressured into cooperating. They said, well, you got to take the building down anyway, so you might as well go in cahoots with us on this demonic plan that we have. You're demonic anyway, so you might as well just up the ante and join with us in forces to get your building taken down, and you don't have to spend a cent. Just make sure you and your loved ones, anyone you care about, aren't there that morning. And that's what I believe. I think that's really one of the ingredients to it. It was so precise. And they wanted to get some people out of the city, too. I remember when I saw that huge cloud covering all of Manhattan, I thought, there's something in that. I didn't know about the asbestos then. But there are people getting sick that isn't put on the news. I thought, if there's something in all that to poison people, it might not show up initially, but it will take out a lot of people. The motivation is depopulation, and to have it look like a natural thing, so you can't point the finger at anybody. I mean, it's got to be a way to catch the chemtrail people. I mean, there's got to be a way for private jets to just get up in the air and follow one of those planes and get to the bottom of what it is all about, who's involved. You never hear about that. People don't act. They just, you know, they just talk about this stuff. And it's just at the point of, what are we going to do? I want to address the government. This metaphor of being snowed in is the truth, because it's a one-way thing. They can mess with us, but we can't mess with them. If we don't do what they say, they can garnish our bank accounts and do all kinds of things. And they want to put RFID chips in us so they can turn off our bank account if we don't comply. But the whole idea of checks and balances is gone with the government. The Supreme Court is in complete collusion with the Zionists because 4 of them are Zionists, and it throws off the votes. And there's got to be a way to override these things that are just automatically messing with us. When they wanted to put through the Obamacare, that was all because of bribes. They select who's going to be senators and representatives based on these things, and they sprinkle it with people that speak out, but they're totally in the minority, so it doesn't matter. And it's just to pacify the viewers with a Ron Paul or somebody that they know is just... They get people to rah-rah, but that guy doesn't have any power. They're not going to let him in to do any of his policies. Kaboom. He's just a patsy, and he knows it. Why do you think Ron Paul was in the government for so long and won every year? They would fix his ballot, too, just to make sure that he would win. They wanted him there, because he's a Pied Piper taking people off the road and into the cornfield, and then ducking down and running away. That's Ron Paul. But there's got to be a way to call all this out. And if we could be a legislative body and a representative body to reinstate checks and balances with the government and talk about these things, about our suspicions about natural disaster manipulation and just how it's wrong that we're snowed in and they have a sunny day every single day.